Mira shot up in bed, her breath coming in short gasps. Almost immediately, an unbearable cold spread through her and she shivered violently, grabbing a blanket and wrapping it around herself as her racing mind began to settle. After several moments, the chill faded and Mira finally recognized she was in her own bed. The soft hum of the heat coming through the vents slowly grounded her in reality. Just as she had accepted that she had only experienced an oddly realistic and disturbing dream, her phone rang. She reached to her bedside table and picked it up. An inexplicable flicker of something she couldn't quite name stirred inside her when she saw Lauren's name on the screen. That feeling was quickly replaced by concern when she noticed the time. 6 a.m. Hello? She had barely gotten the word out before Lauren's frantic voice came from the other end. Miss Mira? Are you okay? Is everything all right? Lauren asked, almost hysterical. For a split second, Mira froze. The panic in Lauren's voice clashed sharply with the soft, soothing voice she remembered from her dream. Lauren. I'm fine, she said soothingly. What's wrong? Did something happen? There was no response, and Mira sat straighter. Lauren. I'm here, Lauren finally replied. A heavy sigh came over the phone. I'm sorry if I woke you. I guess I just had a bad dream. Mira's breath caught. Dream? She repeated warily. Yeah. It was. I'm sorry, it was just really realistic. I'll let you go back to sleep. I'll be there in a couple of hours for my shift. You don't need to, Mira said quickly. What? Are you? Am I being fired, Mom? Mira felt a sudden ache at the hurt in her voice. No, of course not, Mira assured her. It's just that the house doesn't really need cleaning today. But I was hoping you could still come by so we could talk. Talk? About? I'll explain when you get here, Mira replied. Oh. Okay. Well, I'll go get ready then. Lauren disconnected. Mira sat perfectly still for several minutes. Lauren had a dream. A dream that had frightened her enough to call at 6 a.m. just to make sure Mira was safe. Mira slowly rubbed her arms, remembering the dream she'd had and the brutal cold that had woken her. No. It couldn't be. She shook her head and gave a quiet laugh at herself. She was being ridiculous. Suddenly her stomach growled so loudly it startled her. The hunger hit her all at once. Sharp, hollow and desperate as if she hadn't eaten in weeks. And beneath it, the cold still clung to her skin, like it had followed her out of the dream. Shaking her head to clear it of the lingering dream, she slid out of bed and went to take a shower, knowing Lauren Hamilton was a woman who was always exactly on time. Lauren stood on the front porch for a moment, her hand hovering near the key in her pocket. Normally she would have let herself in. Mira had insisted on that months ago, saying it was easier when she was not home. But today felt different. After a moment of hesitation, Lauren pressed the doorbell instead. Inside, Mira looked up from the kitchen table in surprise. A moment later she appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a towel. Lauren. Lauren shifted awkwardly. I wasn't sure if I should just walk in since you said you wanted to talk. Mira blinked, then gave a faint smile. You have a key, you know. Yeah, I know. So why are you ringing the doorbell? Lauren looked mildly embarrassed. Well, I'm not here to work, so it felt rude. Mira studied her for a moment, then stepped aside and shook her head. Come in before the neighbors decide to be nosy. Lauren entered the house she had cleaned 3 days a week for 2 years, but today it felt different. She glanced around the foyer, and suddenly an image flashed in her mind. A horrible image. Mira on the floor as her husband and in-laws attacked her. Lauren, what is it? Mira asked with concern. Lauren shook her head. Nothing. So, you said you wanted to talk about something? Yes, I did. Come into the kitchen. I made breakfast. Lauren followed Mira and then stopped in her tracks. The table was covered in food. Multiple plates piled high with eggs, bacon, sausage and bagels along with juice and a large carafe of coffee. "Are you expecting an army?" she asked, only half teasing. Mira looked at the table and offered a sheepish smile. "Yeah, I know it's a lot, but I woke up starving this morning and couldn't seem to stop cooking." "Okay," Lauren said, though something started pricking at the back of her mind. "Have a seat." Lauren took off her coat and hung it over the back of her chair before sitting at the table. Mira soon joined her. It felt strange that her employer was serving her breakfast, but the distracted look on Mira's face, along with the lingering memory of her dream, made Lauren push the thought aside. She took a sip of coffee and looked at Mira. "I'm sorry about waking you up this morning," she began awkwardly. "There's no need to apologize," Mira assured her. "But that's what I wanted to talk about. You said you had a dream?" "Yes," Lauren said, shivering at the memory of the attack and the deadly cold. "It was weird. But it felt so real." Mira slowly set down the piece of bacon she had just picked up. Her inexplicable hunger faded. "Tell me." Lauren saw something in Mira's eyes that said this was not simple curiosity. So, she told her what she remembered. The blizzard, Mira offering her a place to stay. Peter's parents arriving. Lauren hesitated when she reached what happened next. She didn't want to remember it. Mira's heart had already started pounding when Lauren mentioned her in-laws. Something was very wrong. "Go on," she urged quietly, though she suspected what was coming and was not sure she truly wanted to hear it. Lauren swallowed. Then she spoke about the woman named Vanessa. About the assault. About being pushed out into the freezing snow. "And then?" Mira whispered. Lauren stared down into her coffee. "Then we bought some food and went to my apartment." She lifted her eyes to Mira. "And then, we died." Mira blinked and forced herself to breathe, slowly regaining her composure. "Miss Mira? Are you all right?" Lauren asked with concern. "I had the same dream," she said quietly. "What?" "That dream. I had the same one," Mira replied, the realization dawning on her even as it seemed too impossible to believe. "Everything you just said. I remember all of it. Even my husband hitting me and throwing us outside." Her voice faltered. "I remember you taking me to your home, spending your money to buy supplies, the heat going out. And then us under the covers, holding hands. We could barely feel the cold anymore." She swallowed. "And then, I woke up here." Lauren slowly set her coffee cup down. How is that even possible?" Mira sat back in her chair, picking at a bagel. "It isn't, but if I didn't know better." She hesitated, knowing how it would sound. "If you didn't know better what?" Lauren prodded. "Well, either we had an extremely unlikely shared dream or we were given a second chance." Lauren could only gape at Mira for several seconds. "Second chance? As in, reincarnation or something?" Mira chuckled. "Not exactly, more like rebirth. Like we were given a chance to change what happened." Lauren wanted to laugh but she couldn't, still she wasn't ready to believe it either. "Miss Mira, have you been watching too many YouTube videos?" Mira laughed. "Fine, you caught me. Yes, I know you're aware of my habit of watching apocalypse videos while I'm writing," she admitted, but her smile faded. "But can you explain it any better?" "No," Lauren admitted, finally helping herself to the now cool eggs and bacon. Mira glanced down at her phone. "It's November 10th, she said, frowning. "The last thing I remember was it was a week before Christmas." "Me too. Still, none of this happens outside of fiction," Lauren argued, still not wanting to believe it. "I know but..." Mira paused as a thought occurred to her. "Oh wait. I remember that today, Peter called to say he wouldn't be home for Thanksgiving." "Do you remember what time he called?" "No, but there's nothing saying I can't call him first, Mira replied as she called Peter's number and put it on speaker. Hey, Mira, Peter answered. I can't talk right now. Can I call you back? It won't take long. I just wanted to double-check if you were coming home for Thanksgiving. There was a brief pause before Peter gave a small laugh. You must be psychic, hun. I was going to call you later. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I won't be able to get away this year. Mira and Lauren exchanged a glance. Oh? No, work is crazy right now. So why don't I come there? That's not a good idea, Peter said quickly. Too quickly. Why not? Well, I'll be working a lot and won't have time to spend with you. I'd suggest you go to my parents, but they're going to my brother's. Mira felt a small flicker of hurt. And what about me? You'll be fine, Peter said kindly. I'm sure you'll spend most of the day on your computer writing. Mira sighed. You're probably right. Great. Besides, I'll be home for Christmas, all right. And we'll spend all of it together. Just us. Mira's eye twitched. Sounds good. I've got to go, hun. I'll call you later. Peter hung up before Mira could respond. Well, Mira said after a moment. Are you all right? Lauren asked cautiously. I'm fine. Though that does match what I remember. Lauren studied her for a moment. Mira, can I ask you something? Of course. Lauren looked down at her plate. In your dream, or whatever it was, do you remember that at the end we both revealed things about ourselves that nobody knew? Mira's eyes widened. If Lauren remembered what she had said, it would almost confirm the rebirth idea, strange as that sounded. Yes, I remember. What did I tell you? Lauren rubbed the side of her nose. You said the affair didn't bother you like it should have. You said that once he relocated to Canada and was gone more than he was home, you grew comfortable with it. Everything in Mira shifted. Lauren, she said quietly, unsure how to respond. Is that how you feel? Yes, Mira admitted. For the last 2 years. I've never shared that with anyone before, and I rarely even let myself think about it. How could you know something like that? I don't know, Lauren said, scratching her temple as she searched for any reason to doubt what was happening. What did I tell you? Mira studied her for a moment before answering. You said your biggest regret was that Peter didn't show his true colors sooner. You said that when your parents died, they left you a house in the mountains and a modest inheritance, and that if there had been time you would have taken me there. Shit, Lauren swore softly. There's no way you could know that. No, Mira said slowly, which means. We really were reborn? Lauren finished, wanting to laugh at the absurdity of it. It seems that way. So, what do we do? Mira shrugged, the writer in her already at work. We can sit here and talk about how ridiculous it is, or we can start planning. Quite frankly, I'd rather be prepared this time and not need it than wind up freezing to death. I can't argue with that. Where do we start? Mira let out a laugh that held a hint of real amusement. After all the survival videos I've watched over the last year, you'd think I'd know. For now, I want to find out if Peter is actually working over Thanksgiving or if this is just a cover for his little affair. How? The usual way. I'm going to hire a detective to follow him in Canada. Oh. While I'm doing that, you can use my laptop to check ChatGPT or Copilot and see if there's any mention of a severe blizzard expected in the next month. Just to be sure. Then make a list of everything we might need. Lauren sighed, still wondering if this was somehow part of her dream. A bagel hitting her in the forehead told her it wasn't. Hey, she complained. You were drifting off, Mira said with a grin that quickly turned into a laugh when she saw the glare she received. After clearing the leftovers and cleaning the kitchen, Mira brought Lauren a laptop before returning to her office to find a detective. Lauren sat down at the table and turned on the computer, her fingers moving quickly across the keys as she switched between tabs, searching everywhere she could think of for news about pending blizzards while compiling supply lists. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the dishwasher and the steady clicking of keys on the laptop. Several minutes later, Mira reappeared in the doorway. "Okay. The detective's set," she announced. "He's starting today." Lauren looked up from the screen. "So quickly?" Mira smirked. "Money has a way of making people available. Plus, I told him it was time sensitive." She pulled out the chair across from Lauren and sat down. "What did you find?" Lauren turned the laptop so Mira could see. "I ran both Copilot and ChatGPT. They're saying the same thing. Conditions are shaping up for a major storm event. Right about the time we remember." Mira's stomach tightened. "So that lines up too." "Yeah. And I asked both for preparation lists. Food, water, heat sources, backup power, winter gear, medical supplies. I've got everything cross-referenced." Mira nodded slowly, absorbing it. "Good. That's good." Lauren hesitated, then added, "There's something else. If this storm is anything like the one we remember, we're going to need somewhere safe. Somewhere we can actually ride it out." "I know. We could probably find a hotel, perhaps the next city over so Peter doesn't come looking for me. Or we can use my house," Lauren offered cautiously. "Your house? The one you told me about in the dream or whatever that was?" Lauren leaned back in her chair, rubbing her forehead. "Yes. I mean, I haven't been there in 2 years. Not since my parents died, so I'm not sure what condition it's in. It's on the grid, but since my parents preferred to stay in the cabin during winter, it's also set up for off-grid situations. It's very well insulated with an electric stove but also a wood stove, solar panels, well water, backup generator and a buried propane tank. Plus, it's a little over an hour away, which puts some distance between you and Peter. You'd want me to go with you to such a special place?" "Well, yeah," Lauren replied as if it were the most obvious thing in the world, but to Mira it meant everything. "Thank you," Mira said sincerely. Lauren felt a sudden flicker of something at Mira's expression and she shifted awkwardly. "Don't thank me. This could turn out to be for nothing." Mira chuckled. "Maybe, but at best, we can treat it like a nice quiet vacation." Lauren let out a slow breath. "Fair enough. Then I guess I should go check the place and make sure it's still standing and see how much storage we have to work with." For the next 2 weeks, Lauren and Mira worked tirelessly to prepare. While Mira still had to spend much of each day on her book, Lauren focused on making sure the mountain house was ready. Fortunately, it was still in good shape. Lauren had the standby generator serviced and the propane tank refilled, the solar array wiring checked, and the well pump inspected to be sure everything was working properly. There was already a good amount of cut wood stacked under a covered shed, but Lauren arranged for several more cords to be delivered just in case. When she wasn't writing, Mira handled most of the online orders. She purchased 2 large solar power stations capable of powering the entire house along with several smaller backup units and additional camping gear in case the storm limited both grid power and solar output. Those had arrived a few days earlier. She also bought a large smart television with a USB port and several external hard drives, then downloaded hundreds of hours of classic movies and television shows and, at Lauren's request, a collection of old-school cartoons. A few games, puzzles, and a second laptop soon joined the growing pile of supplies. Within 2 weeks the house was fully prepared and the equipment Mira ordered had arrived. The only thing left was food and water, which they would save for the last few days. As they worked, Lauren and Mira also took time to learn more about each other. Having accepted the strange reality that they had been reborn, they spoke more about the confessions they had made during their final hours in the storm. Lauren explained why she had chosen to work as a part-time house cleaner instead of relying on the inheritance her parents had left her, while Mira admitted that she had been questioning the state of her marriage for some time after realizing the long separations from Peter had not been as painful as they should have been. When the report from the detective arrived, complete with photos, video, and audio proving the affair, it also revealed that Peter's parents had spent Thanksgiving in Canada with him and the woman they knew to be Vanessa. Lauren immediately tried to comfort her. Mira, however, was surprised to feel only a slight twinge of hurt. What lingered in her mind far more than the betrayal was the memory of what Peter and his family had done in their previous life. She had wondered aloud whether they should simply move on. Or whether, this time, they should make sure Peter and the others faced consequences for what they had done in their past life. They briefly considered taking all the food and blankets from the house but quickly dismissed the idea. Leaving them to starve or freeze would make them no better than the people they despised. In the end, they decided not to take anything. Instead, they simply wouldn't buy more. That would leave it to Peter and his family to use their own judgment and purchase supplies before the storm grew too severe. If they failed to do so, that would be their responsibility. For now, there was still plenty of food in the pantry and refrigerator, but once 5 people were living there, it wouldn't for months. There were no backup heaters or power stations either once the utilities failed. They would survive, but it definitely wouldn't be comfortable. Once the storm passed, if they survived it, Mira intended to file for divorce and ensure Peter left the marriage with nothing more than what he had brought into it. Still, they couldn't resist a small measure of pettiness. Mira quietly added several hidden surveillance cameras to the existing security system. If things went as badly as they expected, both Lauren and Mira wanted to witness the dogs turning on each other. A few days before Peter was due to return home, Mira and Lauren were finally ready to permanently relocate. Weather reports were increasingly mentioning a major winter storm arriving around Christmas, and they wanted to be settled well before it began. Not wanting Peter to know what they were doing, Mira called him. Peter answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mira. Everything okay?" "Yes," she said. "I just wanted to let you know I'm taking a short retreat. A deadline got moved up and I'm completely blocked here. I need a change of scenery." "Oh." His tone tightened. "When?" "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" He gave a short, incredulous laugh. "Mira, I'll be home in a few days. Christmas is coming." "I know, but it can't be helped." "So, you're not going to be there when I get home?" "No. I need the time to work." There was a brief silence before irritation slipped into his voice. "You're seriously telling me you're skipping Christmas? Mira, come on. I haven't been home in months and now you're leaving me alone for Christmas?" Something in her snapped. "You being gone for months was your choice, Peter. You could have been home 2 weeks ago, but you didn't seem too concerned about leaving me alone for Thanksgiving." Peter went quiet. Not guilty quiet. Caught quiet. "That was different," he said finally. "How?" "I had work." "And I have work now," Mira replied calmly. "This deadline isn't optional." He exhaled sharply. "It's just writing, Mira. Why can't you write at home?" "Because I can't," she said simply. "You'll be home wanting to be entertained, and then your family is supposed to arrive a few days before Christmas. I won't have time to cook, decorate, and manage everything." "Oh, come on. That's why you hired Lauren, right? She'll take care of all that." "Lauren has a life, Peter. She's going away for the holidays." "Well, what good is she then?" Mira held back the response that came to mind. "Look, I need to go. I just wanted to let you know not to expect to find me when you get home. I'll be in the mountains, so reception will be spotty at best." Peter was quiet for several seconds, and Mira had no doubt he was already thinking about the advantages of her absence. "All right, honey. I understand. Just be safe and call or text when you have service." "I will," she replied before disconnecting. "Idiot," she muttered under her breath. Lauren heard the quiet insult and laughed. "You're good at that," she said. "At what?" "Making up stories." Mira smirked. "It's how I make my living." "Point taken," Lauren said with a grin. Now how about some dinner before I help you pack? The next morning they drove to the cabin with their bags and made sure the heat was running. The days were growing colder, though the skies were still clear, so they took advantage of the weather to gather the last of their supplies. Rather than clearing out a single store and leaving nothing for anyone else, they rented 2 large trucks and drove 3 hours into a neighboring state and split their purchases across several grocery stores. This time, there were no crowds or panicked shoppers. The shelves were still full, and they bought everything they could fit in their trucks, everyday toiletries, including a large supply of toilet paper, pasta, sauces, soup, bread, powdered milk, steaks, ground beef, shrimp, scallops, instant potatoes, coffee, tea, and hot chocolate. Remembering the gnawing hunger from their past life, they also indulged a little, adding chocolate, chips, popcorn, frozen pizzas, crackers, and anything else that looked good. Once the large pantry and freezers at the cabin were full, they made one final stop at several nearby stores for cases of bottled water, large refillable containers, and water purification tablets. At a farm supply store they purchased several large water barrels that they planned to fill before the weather turned and the well pump froze. And, in case the worst happened, they reluctantly added a composting toilet. By the time they finished stacking the last of the supplies, the temperature had dropped considerably. The forecast still spoke cautiously of a major winter system forming to the north. Mira and Lauren already knew exactly what that meant, but for the moment they settled in and enjoyed the city power while it lasted, cooking a light dinner before curling up in front of the large television to watch an old movie. The tranquility wouldn't last much longer, but for now Mira and Lauren would take every chance they had left to embrace the second chance they'd been given.